Now, it's everybody's favourite Christmas elf, Kenny Cunningham. Kenny, good morning to you.
Morning, lads.
How are you?
It's Christmas, is it?
It is, yeah, come on.
Right.
I thought you would have been king of Christmas.
Ho, lads, far from it, I'm afraid. Far from it.
You're
Really?
Nearer the Scrooge end of the spectrum,
Kenny.
I would think.
What?
Yeah, afraid so, lads, yeah. I wouldn't be at my best over the Christmas and New Year, in all honesty.
Ah, I thought the food in particular would have been something you would have, pigs and blankets.
I enjoyed me grub Christmas Day, no doubt about that, but that's only 10 minutes, lads. It's the rest of it, that's the problem.
Is this from your days as a footballer when actually footballers couldn't properly enjoy Christmas?
I think it is, in all honesty, Jay, you're right, yeah, it's a funny old time. I love me football around the Christmas, New Year, and it is a bit of a drop-off. There is a little bit of that to it. When you do take a step away from the game, it's a funny old time. I think I remember a couple of lads alluding to it as well, saying it's probably the most difficult time of the year, funnily enough. The time you think you'll enjoy more and, get on the lash and eat what you want and, no rules, etc., etc., but yeah, it's probably the one time of the year certainly when you initially step away from the game, when it kind of hits home that, I'm missing this a bit, definitely.
Right, okay. That's really interesting, Kenny. I didn't realise this.
Yeah, sorry, lads, just burst your balloon there.
No, it stands to reason, though. It's not like there's a rule out there that everyone has to enjoy Christmas. It's a rough time of year for a lot of people for so many different reasons, but I'd never actually heard it been put on those terms, that even at this remove, Kenny, so many years after your retirement, you still remember those days where the whole place was just a buzz with this crown fixture list and all the enjoyment and the pressure and everything that went with it. Oh, no, it was, from a footballing perspective, it was by far the best time of the year. Games coming thick and fast. Just the absolute, just the buzz of the games, even the travelling, don't get me wrong, travelling New Year's Eve or, bit of time away from the household and all those things I understand. But ultimately, the games coming thick and fast. Everyone matters. There's the opportunity to get them a bit of a run over the Christmas period, get yourself away from relegation, get yourself a bit closer to the top of the league, whatever it was. It was a little bit manic, around that time as well. A bit of madness, really. But a lot of people screamed, there are too many games, a disgrace. But within the confines of the dressing room, amongst the players, they absolutely loved it.
Yeah, one of my favourite things about Stephen's Day was always that there was crazy results, like all the way back to Luton and their plastic pitch and QPR and their plastic pitch. Frequently, Liverpool or somebody who were supposed to be really good would get turned over, and they wouldn't get turned over 1-0, they get hammered out of nowhere. Yeah, it's amazing that. Yeah, those kind of standalone results over the course of the season. I take your point, just coincidentally. Maybe that's a bit of a mindset, wherever it was, I'm not too sure, but you're right, those kind of freakish results certainly did happen. But yeah, definitely, without a doubt, I always felt that kind of feeling around the place amongst the players that, it was a time of the year everybody really focused on and looked forward to it. Let's talk about the football over the weekend. We might talk about some of the other stuff if we have time at the end. Dave made the point a little bit earlier on, Kenny, that if Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was not a club legend at Manchester United, that the results he's had this season would have seen him sacked by now. Is that a straightforward thing, that that's the only thing that's keeping him in the job, or are there enough signs about what they're trying to do? And it is a bit of a revolution, really, in terms of getting the side to have an identity and a style of play and something. Is there enough beyond the fact that he's a club legend to warrant him staying?
I'd agree with David. I think it's helping him, but I certainly don't think it's the only reason. I think the fact they made this decision at the end of the season and they've backed their manager publicly on a number of occasions now, Ed Woodward in particular, means they're almost obligated at least to stick with Solskjaer or whoever the manager was till the end of the season. It's almost like public humiliation for Woodward if he sacks him now. So I think he'll stick with him till the end of the season, not just because it's Solskjaer, but I think his reputation, his association with the club certainly is a factor and strengthens his position to an extent, but only to an extent, lads. Does that mean he's going to stick with him for the next 2 or 3 years for the remainder of his contract? No. I think he'll stick with him to the end of the season, like what they should have done last season, rather than giving it to Solskjaer a couple of months before the end of the season. So they should have sat on their hands till the end of the season and then made a more objective opinion. I don't think they'll make that mistake again this season by sacking Solskjaer now. I think they'll stick with him till the end of the season and then make a judgment call then.
They would have made similar public pronouncements around Moyes, Van Gaal and Mourinho as well, though, Kenny, at certain times in the weeks or months before they were sacked. I'm not saying that he should be sacked, because I'm not sure overall what my feelings are on that, but I do firmly believe that if he wasn't Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, that they would have let him go by now. The results are that bad. 6 wins from 18 is appalling, and no clean sheet in 13 games. You lose to Bournemouth, Palace, West Ham, Newcastle, Watford over the span of an 18-game run, on the back of the absolutely dreadful finish they had to last season. Like it's a 9-month body of work which stinks, and he is being allowed to continue in the job because. And Jerry, you make the point. There are other signs of, green shoots of positivity.
So specifically about those stats you had about the against when they don't have the ball, they're actually a better team. And I'm trying to make okay, bear with me here. It's not an easy case to make in the face of the evidence that we're seeing in front of us, right? But they're trying to transition to a style where they're going to be competitive in the Champions League. They just need to add a central midfielder who's going to be able to help them against the teams where they're going to dominate and maybe collectively improve their goal scoring against those teams who are weaker.
Well, yeah, I disagree with you there. I think this perception out there that you need to be a team which dominates possession of the football and have majority of possession of the football to actually dominate a game and be successful is wrong.
Sorry.
That may be preferred way of playing football.
Hang on.
Jerry's saying the opposite,
I'm actually, for once, I'm kind of agreeing with you here. They're getting better results when they have less of the ball, and I'm saying that actually they're going to be a really good counter-attacking team in Europe, and their record against the better teams would bear out the fact that they would survive and they will prosper. But when they do have more of the ball against inferior teams like they had against Watford, they don't know what to do with it at the moment. Yeah,
no, I think it's a fair point. We've probably had this discussion before, Jay, in terms of that creative edge. That generally comes from really the central area of the pitch, Jay. I think they have the players now, certainly with Harry Maguire at centre-half, who can receive the ball off the keeper and walk the ball into those central area of the pitch. He can drive in there himself, Maguire. He's certainly good enough to break that initial line and get it into those central areas. But yeah, McTominay and Fred, it's obvious to say they haven't got players who can play on the half-turn, who can then walk the ball further up the pitch efficiently, and that kind of array of passing. That's pretty obvious, but everybody can see that. It's crying out. Have a look at the impact Pogba made in the game yesterday coming on, how he was able to transform that team from a creative point of view in terms of breaking the lines with his pass and picking out those big long diags for those runners in behind. That's the difference that Paul Pogba makes as somebody of his ilk in that central midfield area. So you're right. In terms of that type of football, it's not going to change unless Pogba comes back into the team and he's focused and is determined to commit his future, short and medium term, to Manchester United and produce the type of top quality performance we know he can. And if that's not the case, and he still sees his future away from the club, get him out the door and get at least one, if not two, of those more creative type of midfield players that you're talking about. And then Manchester United will have that kind of variation in central midfield which you're talking about. But does it mean they can't be successful without that? No, I don't think it does, because Atletico Madrid have been successful for a huge period of time in Spain and in Europe, playing that type of kind of counter-attacking football without that necessarily creative type of central midfield player. If you look at Liverpool, actually, over the weekend, I was covering the game against Flamengo, had the majority of possession of the football, the Brazilian side, against Liverpool. But Liverpool won that game. And Liverpool are the type of team who don't create possession of the football either. At times, Liverpool are capable of playing on the counter-attack very successfully, and they're probably the best team in the world. Well, officially they are the best team in the world at the moment. So that's the bone of contention, I suppose, in the conversation, which will be continuing to be around the Solskjaer and Manchester United, certainly between now and the end of the season.
But the key to that Diego Simeone Atletico team, Kenny, was that they would have won a lot of those games 1-0, and it was their defence that they were able to rely on. They had Hernandez, Godin, Juan Fran, Jimenez, Felipe Luis, and they knew that if they got one, it was almost always going to be enough for them to win those games against these smaller teams or weaker teams where they wouldn't create as many chances. And going forward yesterday, United weren't the worst They had that Jesse Lingard chance, which really should have been taken. In the last 10 minutes, they created 5 or 6 really good opportunities. But they cannot stop conceding goals. And so against the sides that are going to shut up shop and put 11 men behind the ball, United, to win the game, have to score 2 or 3, which is really difficult to do against these sides. And 13 games without a clean sheet, Kenny, in the Premier League. It's their worst record in nearly 50 years in league football. Like, what are you seeing as a centre-half as the main causes behind what is now a farcical run of form defensively?
Yeah, that's a fair point that you make, but I'd argue it's not just about the defensive unit, that the back four, which is stretched across the pitch in terms, and your goalkeeper even in terms of your ability to keep clean sheets. Dave, it's the ability of the whole team. It's the collective setup, defensive setup, the whole team from front to back. You know, when you start chasing the ball or putting that press on, whether it's a high press, medium, low, whatever it is, it starts from the front in terms of the kind of qualities that you have higher up the pitch in terms of pressing the ball and what happens behind that, and eventually your defensive line. So it's about the whole collective unit for me in terms of how efficient they are. In terms of that, if you want to just look at that defensive line, I look at Wan-Bissaka. I think excellent player, particularly going forward, but still relatively young and experienced, still learning the game. We saw that as challenge yesterday. It was kind of a wild challenge, inexperienced challenge. I look at the centre-half pairing. I think it's solid. Do I think it's absolutely world-class? No. Is Harry Maguire in improving what they had? Yes. Am I a huge fan of Maguire? No. Lack of mobility, lack of athleticism, kind of quickness over the ground for me at times kind of cost them. So that's a small issue there as well. So the small little things there, contributory factors in terms of Dave, in terms of what you're saying. But you're absolutely right. The most successful, Atletico Madrid, did build their success on a sound defensive foot as well, and the ability to keep clean sheets and look to counter-attack people, teams efficiently. I don't think that's going to be Manchester United going forward. I think there's going to be a call for Manchester United to play a different way, that kind of creativity in midfield, more of a possession-based team. I think that'll grow that kind of calling, that kind of demand from Manchester United supporters generally. I think that's how Solskjaer wants to play, but that's going to take a little bit of time. And in terms of players coming into the football club are going to be absolutely key in terms of recruitment. Question is Solskjaer going to be given the responsibility to bring those players in? I'm still not convinced, to be honest with you, but I think that decision will be made next summer at the earliest.
If you were in charge, would you just give the job to Pochettino? Would you try and get him, or would you ring Simeone and see what it takes to get him? Like, if you had carte blanche to do what you want, Kenny, what would you do?
No, I think Pochettino for me is a strong option. He really is. And if I was Ed Woodward at the moment, I wouldn't be personally picking up the phone to Pochettino or his representatives, but I'd be certainly speaking to people intermediaries who could speak to him, and I'd be sounding them out, and I'd be asking what his intentions are, and I'd be saying, would he prepared to sit? Is he prepared to sit till the end of the season if this job was to become available, and just find out what his thoughts are? Because for me, he's an outstanding manager and actually would be a very good fit at Manchester United. But it's a delicate one. Would he wait till the end of the season? He's come out publicly and said he wants to get back into football and he wants to get back in quickly. Whether Manchester United give him the guarantee that job would be there at the end of the season. But if they feel as if he is the fit, he's ready in terms of experience, the relative success he's had at Spurs in terms of reshaping that squad. Maybe they could actually give him that guarantee now that job's his at the end of the season, and save themselves a little bit of face in the meantime by keeping Solskjaer in the job. Now, that's not very fair on Solskjaer, but they would save face in the meantime. They'd probably end up getting a man who they probably do covet in terms of the number one for that job.
It's an interesting one, and I see the point you're making, Kenny, and it would certainly go down well with the supporters if Solskjaer was allowed to stay until the end of the season. But if you find yourself in a position where you're pushed to make this hypothetical call to Pochettino, why wait? Their season is still there for them. They're within touching distance of the top four. They've got a semi-final of the League Cup coming, so they're a tie against Manchester City, who they've already beaten the season away from getting to Wembley. They're in the last 32 of the Europa League. There's an FA Cup run potentially still to come. It's not like this season is a write-off by any stretch. Yeah.
No, I agree with you. That's the hardest decision to make, and that would actually take, the old big kahuna that people speak about on Ed Woodward's behalf. He'd have to kind of fall on his own sword to a certain extent. That's what I'm talking about in terms of how public supportive he's been of the manager. But if his gut feeling tells him, not his gut feeling, but if he thinks Pochettino's me man, he's the one I desperately want. He's the one we wanted last summer, but we just really couldn't get him out at Tottenham. He's available now, and his intermediaries tell him, look, he's not going to be available in the summer. He's not prepared to wait. He will take this job now. If you offer it to him in the next month, then that's the big decision that Woodward has to make. And I think you're right, Jay. If that's the case, and those are the circumstances which is facing Woodward, yeah, he has to bite the bullet. And it's tough. People may think that's on Solskjaer. Medium to long term, it's probably the right thing for Manchester United Football Club. It's a tough call to make, but in effect, it probably is the right call at this moment if that's the circumstances as they are.
It's an interesting one as well that when Pochettino was fired, there were a number of options that seemed to be on the table. Real Madrid were not going well. Bayern Munich were not going well. Arsenal were not going well.
All gone.
All of these jobs are now been taken off the table. Bayern Munich have made an appointment till the end of the season now. That's not to say Pochettino couldn't go to Munich in the close season. Real Madrid are back playing good football, winning league games. They're toe-to-toe with Barcelona. Arsenal have obviously appointed Mikel Arteta. So Tuchel seems to be a bit more settled at PSG. There are definitely options that were on the table a month ago that are now no longer there. And I just wonder if that has just closed the alternatives in Pochettino's eyes, and Manchester United are now looming large on his horizon. Yeah,
possibly. I'm a bit surprised Pochettino came out publicly and said he was desperate to get back in. I would have thought he would have been best served. The advice I would have been given him was really just to sit till the end of the season. I know he's a young man and he's obviously wants to get back involved. He loves the game, etc. And he wants that buzz again of being a manager of a top club. But for me, if I was advising Pochettino, probably for the reasons that we're talking about here, I'd be saying, look, just sit till the end of the season. Put it out there, look, I'm going to sit till the end of the season, going to reevaluate, reflect the whole shebang, and then I'm going to look to get myself involved next season at the club, a whole pre-season to go and build a team, to recruit, and to go again at the start of the next season. Personally, that's the advice I'd be giving Pochettino, because I don't think a huge amount's going to change at Manchester United between now and then. And I think it's an easier decision then for Woodward and United board to offer him the job at the end of the season than it is now. I know you're saying, Jen, a bit of a struggle at the moment, but it's still a tough call for Woodward to take Solskjaer out of that job now and hand it to any other manager, let alone Pochettino. I think that's an easier decision for Woodward to make. Wouldn't receive more criticism, probably less criticism would come his way if he left that till the end of the season. I think Pochettino could help him out actually indirectly by actually saying, look, I'm going to take a step back, I'm going to sit till the end of the season, and then I'm going to go hopefully at a top club.
Last question on this for now. Gary Neville saying it looks like he thinks Pogba doesn't really want to be there. He is their best player, but he doesn't want to be there. If that's the case, that Manchester United should get rid of him. If you're Manchester United, if you're the manager, do you believe that you can have a better team without Pogba, or do you try and make Pogba work for you for the last 5-6 months in the hope that, you know, you can go on a run and win the Europa League, save your job, win the League Cup, and like have a trophy-winning season, and, you know, change the narrative around Solskjaer?
Yeah. No, yeah, you're right. Yeah, absolutely, yeah, you're right. There is still a possibility there. Things could turn around for Pogba and Solskjaer. Solskjaer's heavily dependent on Pogba now between now and the end of the season. So you saw we spoke about him after the game yesterday. He could transform Manchester United season. Just how we transformed Manchester United and Solskjaer came into the football club last year. I mean, Pogba's stats in terms of goals and assists were off the radar for the first couple of months when Solskjaer came in. And he's that good a player, he really is. But he's no good to Manchester United going forward if he's not totally committed to the football club. He doesn't want to be there. It's just as simple as that. If he doesn't want to be there, he's got to get him out. It's as simple as possible. But if he can get a trick or two out between now and the end of the season, or he maybe Pop will decide, well, listen, I need to generate myself a move in the summer. I need to start reminding clubs around Europe how good I actually am.
Or if they promise him a move,
turn out between now and the end of the season. But ultimately, if he's not committed to the football club, and I think it's a shame because I'm a huge, absolute huge Pogba fan. He could actually drive this Manchester United team and club forward over the next 2 to 3 years. He really could. He's that good. But unfortunately, if he's not committed to the cause, you've got to show him the door.
But they could promise him a move. They can reach an arrangement themselves, can't they? You know, we will let you go in the summer, similar to what they did with Cristiano Ronaldo at the end of the 2008 season when they won the Champions League. We will let you go next summer, but between now and this summer, we need you to help us qualify for the Champions League or win the Europa League. And in turn, as you've mentioned there, you'll enhance your own value. We'll get a bigger transfer fee, and you will have better options in terms of the clubs that might be interested in you.
Yeah, you might have that conversation with us, Solskjaer. It's a pretty depressing scenario for Manchester United supporters to hear that. You know what I mean? You know, put your head down, put in some decent performances, and we let you go. I mean, you know what I mean? That is pretty depressing, but that's the reality of the situation, Jer. That may well be the case. I don't think Solskjaer will have that conversation when he'll still feel as if, I want to keep this fella here, because he knows this fella could keep him in a job at the end of the season. He really is that good, Pogba. So that's very interesting to see how that develops. But it suggests, looking at Pogba's body language, even prior to that, picking up that injury, how things have gone since, just get that sense really as if the player is looking to get away, and that kind of dynamic isn't going to change.
Kenny, good stuff. Enjoy the pigs and blankets. Thanks a million.
Nice one, chaps.
Happy Christmas. Good luck. It's Kenny Cunningham there.